Hey there, BookTube. So I decided to get on here pretty impromptu once I realized I haven't uploaded a video in over 2 weeks. I just haven't had much to really talk about. My reading amount kind of went down. Once I finished You Bright and Risen Angels, which I will do a review on, I got into a slump where I didn't want to read. I'll be honest, the new Call of Duty came out, and that's one of my biggest vices is that stupid game. I could just spend hours on it, and I don't like that. I don't like that about myself. I don't like the person I become when I play these games. And thankfully, Season 1 came out and just completely ruined it. So now I'm like, I'm good. I don't have to play that stupid game anymore. Normally I would be recording in my office, but I'm here in the living room because I'm shuffling things around, reorganizing my office, and it's a mess. And I just didn't want to put the tripod. Well, there's really no place I can put the tripod, honestly, because that thing's pretty wide. And there's really no spot for it. Because I have a fairly small office, which is fine by me. But if there's a little bit of clutter, it's noticeable, you know. So I'm getting that organized. When I do a review of Angels, it will be in there, and I'll have it all done. But now I'm here in the living room, under an electric blanket with my trusty sidekick on my lap. But I wanted to show you some of the books. Oh, I thought my wife came home. Some of the books I've been reading. Oh, actually, one of them is not a book. Oh, how about that? The big one. I'm going to try and get this book finished before November. It's going to be a tall task because that's another thing why I've been in kind of a reading slump is work is starting to pick up. It's the holidays, Christmas and all that. And usually it gets really busy the day after Thanksgiving, but it's getting busy now. So I'm having less time to read, and when you're tired, you succumb more easily to your vices, and that's what I've been doing. And I'm trying to not do that. But the big one for me is King Leopold's Ghost. Hold on, let's put the viewfinder. Maybe they'll like that. Tell me if it's still inverted. By I Am Hochschild. I talked about how I was thinking about picking this book up for nonfiction November, and it's the one I decided to go on. It was either that or one book I got introduced to that sounds very interesting was Into That Darkness, which is about a former Nazi in Venezuela, and it's some woman that interviews him, which sounds really, really interesting. But I didn't have it, so I figured just read a book that I already have. And it's about King Leopold II and his colony in the Congo and the mistreatment of the Congolese people. And the parts that I'm just at right now, it talks about how the Belgians not only had kind of propaganda that tricked European in their country, Belgium, but they also tricked the chiefs and kings of the Congo. It talks about how little they really paid for big swaths of land. Like, they have in contracts that the chiefs and kings sign, and they don't really know what's going on. Like, there's mistranslation, there's, you know, they're not really sure what's going on. I mean, it's essentially what happened with the indigenous people of America, where we just completely either screwed them over or said one thing and then did another. Essentially the same thing that's happening here. But in the contract, it talks about how once a year this chief will get some sort of fine clothing, and it's like that's what they paid. And not only that, but in the contracts it talks about how this land is now Belgium's, and then the people in that region that they own, they can be conscripted into work. So that's a big time. Was it return ROD, return on investment, or RO, whatever. I don't return on investment. There we go. Let's just do that. Article of clothing for land and free labor. Like, it's kind of crazy. And also the propaganda used to fool everyone. King Leopold, he's always kind of had his eye on making some sort of colony, and at this point in time, being so upfront with it, going to a different continent or country or whatever, or region, and having a colony, kind of frowned upon. Like it's fine that you already have one, but to actually actively do it is kind of meh. So what he decides to do is form some sort of group, and it's called something like the Betterment of Africa and Scientific Development, something like that. It's a bunch of hogwash, and he makes himself out to be a humanitarian, which is I mean, think back to any billionaire right now. What do? They always talk about, we're going to donate billions of dollars to some charity, and you read the article, or you don't even read the article, you read the headline, like, oh, that's cool, but when you dig into it, oh, it's a foundation that they founded. Oh, this is really not from the kindness of their own heart. It's more for tax breaks, But this is more insidious because he's making it out like he wants to go to Africa and help them. Earlier in the prologue, there's this chief, what's his name? Or no, he's a king. Let's see here. If I can find it. No, I went past it. Alfonso, I believe. There he is. Yeah. King Alfonso. He wants to. He was a modernist. He wanted to emulate European countries and European religion, like Catholicism, and he notices that a lot of people in his own circle are starting to become or being kidnapped for slave trades. This is in the 16th century. He even writes to the king of Portugal, Each day the traitors are kidnapping our people, children of this country, sons of our nobles and vassals, even people of our own family. This corruption and depravity are so widespread that our land is entirely depopulated. We need in this kingdom only priests and school teachers, and no merchandise, unless it is wine and flour from mass. It is our wish that this kingdom not be a place for the trade of transport of slaves. So he's like, hey, we don't want these other stuff. We want stuff to kind of make our society more modern. And King of Portugal's like, sorry. No one in power cares. No one in power cares. And then, let's see here. Yeah. And at first he was fine with it because it was just, people that prisoners of war or whatever. And then it started to affect him. He was like, oh, hey, hold on. And he started to notice it, and then, but back to King Leopold. So there's the slave trade already in effect in Congo. King Leopold uses that. Let's see here. Leopold saw. Wait, what? Let's see here. Let's read the whole thing. Livingstone, Stanley, and the other explorers Leopold saw had succeeded in stirring Europeans by their descriptions of the quote-unquote Arab slave traders, leading sad caravans of chained captives to Africa's east coast. As king of a small country with no public interest in colonies, he recognized that a colonial push of his own would require a strong humanitarian veneer. Curbing the slave trade, moral uplift, and the advancement of science were the aims he would talk about, not profits. And then, well, we know what happens later on. But it's fascinating. It's really an interesting book. I'm just now getting to the part where they're kind of making land, they're buying the land and all that stuff. I have not gotten to the part where they extract labor and raw materials and all that stuff from Congo. But I hope to get this finished before the end of November. We'll find out. And then the other thing that I'm reading, like I mentioned, is not a book. It is let's see if I can get the cover. Well, this is a good cover. It is the first volume of Homunculus. Well, the first two volumes. But I'm on the second volume. And I'm normally not a manga person. I'll go to Barnes & Noble or Books A Million or wherever and kind of see, like, is there anything that might interest me? I don't know. Maybe this thing will be interesting. And I always see a title that's like, my dungeon wife is actually a goblin or something weird. Like, what? I don't know what is this about? None of it sounds interesting to me. But I forget where I heard about this one, and it was always in the back of my mind. And I bought it on some sort of sale, and then I found volumes 3 and 4 at Goodwill. Actually, I got that, and so far it's about this guy who's homeless, and his backstory is vague. He says, "Oh, he was a school teacher. Oh, he was a mechanic." No one really knows what his deal is. But he lives in his car, and he's very, very proud of his car. And he runs out of money. And he gets propositioned by this medical student, who's also the son of a very rich father. And he says, "I'll give you, I don't know what the U.S. dollar amount would be, but it was like a few 100,000 yen or whatever." And at first he's like, "I don't think so." And the procedure is kind of weird. He would drill a hole in his forehead, and it wouldn't pierce the skull or anything, just like a little bit of the membrane. That's it, like barely even noticeable. You'll be knocked out. You won't feel a thing. Oh well, you might feel a little bit of discomfort, but it's fine. And the main character is like, "Nah, I'm good." He gets his car taken away. He gets it towed. And he's like, I know what's going on here. It was the son of the rich father, the medical student. And he finally agrees to do it, and he gets it done, and it's kind of revealed, or it is revealed, why the student wanted to do it in the first place. He wants to see if it's possible that someone with that procedure can, I guess, not de-evolve, but there's a word I can't think of it. But just like to go back to where you were a kid, and have ESP abilities. And at first, the main character is like, he takes him to some kind of haunted house or some school that's haunted or whatever, and he's like, "There's nothing." He even takes him to a place where a person was just murdered. He takes him to this tunnel that is underneath a former crematorium, and nothing. He doesn't notice any sort of ghosts or noises or anything. And then he does some sort of card game with him that the student does. And he says, "All right, I'm going to pick a shape. And if you pick, I'm going to lay all these cards. Like there's like 27 cards. I'm going to lay them all on the table. And if you pick 5 out of 5, that's the same shape. That's, might show that you have some sort of ability. But this time around, I want you to use the left side of your mind." And he's like, "Okay." And he even covers his right eye. And he gets 4 out of 5 of the shapes in the cards. And then he's like, "Oh, okay, kind of a fluke thing, but whatever." He goes outside, and a gust of wind blows into his face, and he closes his right eye, and he sees things that weren't there before. Like he sees a person with the fish for a head, or a literal walking tree. He sees a whole bunch of weird things, and he notices a Yakuza boss that once he closes his right eye, he sees him not as a Yakuza boss, but as a Gundam, or a robot, but essentially a Gundam. And inside that Gundam is a little boy. And whenever he wants to inflict violence on somebody, it shows him sawing off his pinky, or at least cutting his pinky. And just now, we're following through that plot line. Like, what's that about? It's weird, but it's not so weird where, how some people try to be weird and it's like a little try hard, and I don't feel that way with this one. I think it's subtle enough to where it's like it's not distracting. It's just weird enough. But I like it. I'm curious to see where this series goes. And then I'm also reading. Oh, here it is. I haven't cracked it open yet, but I do plan on reading it at some point. Because I just got it yesterday. It's The Crying of Lot 49. Always wanted to read this book. I now own every Penn John novel, except for Slow Learner. I gotta get Slow Learner as well, but yeah, I never read this. And it's a very short little volume. I mean, it's not very long at all. So, maybe I can knock this out come Sunday. We'll see. I have a 3-day weekend. So, I'll have time to do that then. But, yeah, that's all I got for you. I'm trying to think. I might do a review of Angels this weekend. I think that's probably the best bet. Because this week coming is going to be very busy for me. Amazon has Black Friday deals all week, and that just spells trouble for me. And then Saturday I might actually record a thrifting video where me and my wife, if the weather permits, are going to go to a thrift store that me and her both love. And my first video where I talked about all the books I got that were 50 cents, that's where we're going to. So maybe I'll take you with me. We'll see. But anyways, that's all I got for today. Leo, you want to say bye? You want to say bye? Huh? What were you doing? Are you being cute?